So we are now live. We'll just wait for about 5 seconds for a few attendees to join the meeting. But welcome to everyone. This virtual meeting remains in compliance with Bagley-Keene Open Meetings Act. As such, there'll be the ability for public comment on all agenda items at the end of the meeting. If you wish to provide a comment, please indicate so by submitting your request either in the Q&A field, and we will unmute you, or raise your hand, which is down below. We will unmute you in the order that comments are received, and comments will be held to a strict 3 minutes per person. So thank you, and with that, I will hand it over to the Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Max. I hereby call this meeting of the International Affairs and Trade Development Interagency Committee to order. This committee has been established by Governor Newsom pursuant to Executive Order N-08-19. The purpose of today's meeting is to review and to inform the public about recent activities undertaken by our state agencies and departments with international partners, and to hear public comments that can help guide us and prioritize our future international engagements. Max Oltersdorf, if you would please take the roll.
Yes. Secretary Blumenfeld. And if you're standing in for that person, let us know as well. So Secretary Blumenfeld, not present. Wade Crowfoot.
Angela Barranco, present on his behalf.
Great. And David Kim.
Here.
Karen Ross.
Jenny Lester Moffitt, present here on Secretary Ross's behalf.
Chris Dombrowski.
Present.
Mark Ghilarducci. Not present. Kate Gordon.
I'm here.
David Hochschild.
Here.
Mary Nichols.
Here.
And Carolyn Batetta.
Here.
A quorum is established.
Thank you very much, Max. First, we will move the approval of the minutes from the March 9th Interagency Committee meeting. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Max, why don't we take roll? Do a roll call vote?
Yes.
All right. Do we have any objections to the approval of the minutes? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the International Affairs and Trade Development Interagency Committee meeting. It has been a while since our last meeting in March, right about the time we changed the way we operate because of COVID-19 and the devastating fires, of course, that have ensued since. The goal of the committee is to bring together all the state's agencies, departments, and programs that are engaged in international activities in order to establish cohesiveness in our international strategy and to give the public an opportunity to provide feedback and input. Accordingly, we use this meeting to give an update to the public on our activities since the COVID pandemic began and provide an overview of how our thinking about our international activities and outreach has endured over the past few months. Each of you and your teams have had to demonstrate remarkable adaptability to the rapidly changing conditions we are now experiencing. We all look forward to hearing about how you have been able to adjust your international efforts during these unprecedented times. The situation continues to be very fluid, and we will continue to adapt. However, we cannot stop the important work we've been doing. Although we have suspended all international in-person events and travel since March, we're viewing this period as an opportunity to engage more with our international partners, not less. Video conferencing has become the new normal and an accepted way of conducting business. It has actually allowed us to have broader reach, more frequent and regular engagements with our international partners than ever before. From the outset, my office has been working closely with our colleagues at the Office of Emergency Services, with foreign consular offices here in California, and with U.S. government health officials to help repatriate hundreds of foreign cruise ship crew members and a number of passengers who were stranded in California. We have also worked with the U.S. State Department and American embassies to lobby for the quick return of dozens of Californians who were stranded abroad. My office also assisted in the coordination of PPE donations offered by some of our international friends, partners, and sister states and provinces. We work closely with the Chinese consulates general here in California and with the provincial governments of Jiangsu, Guangdong, and the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, as well as with the Taiwanese and Jordanian governments to accept donations of hundreds of thousands of masks and tens of thousands of other items to the Cal OES stockpiles. I want to give a special thank you to Helen Lopez, Cal OES Assistant Director for International Relations, who has tirelessly worked together with my office to secure donations from abroad, and who was also instrumental in arranging for the repatriation of foreign nationals stranded in California. Throughout this crisis, I've personally spoken on the phone with numerous consuls general to keep them informed of ongoing state guidance and to open lines of communication between our emergency response teams and theirs. I've had ongoing conversations with the governors of both Baja California and Baja California Sur on emergency preparedness to make sure that our entire region, not just our state, is prepared for an extended shutdown, and that we are sharing health information and strategies with our partners in Mexico. We've also continued to engage on key cross-border issues, including the Tijuana River and the Otay Mesa East Border Crossing Project. With Canada, I've spoken with the Minister of International Trade to ensure that essential goods movement over the border continues unimpeded, even while non-essential travel has been suspended. In addition to the work we've been doing with the international partners, I sit on the Governor's Economic Recovery Task Force and co-chair one of the subcommittees. We've been working hard to bolster our state's economic recovery through a broad range of initiatives, including helping small businesses to attract customers, closing the digital divide, and rolling out a media campaign to emphasize the need to wear a mask. As part of that, we've made sure that our materials and supplies are available to people in California, regardless of languages spoken. We translated materials into Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Korean, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. Throughout the pandemic, I've continued to speak at a number of public, academic, and think tank forums on the importance California attaches to its foreign relations, not only to encourage trade and investment, but also to promote our values as a diverse, inclusive society that embraces immigrants from all over the world, and to bolster California's role as a world leader in the fight against climate change. As you all know, Mary, Jared, and Wade better than anyone, the governor announced last week a series of climate initiatives, one of which will require all new vehicles sold in California by 2035 to be zero-emission vehicles. Our interagency committee has an important role in implementing the governor's initiatives, and I propose that we collaborate across our respective entities to bring ZEV investment and manufacturers to our state and collaborate with other regions to move in the same direction. It is an undeniable fact that the COVID pandemic has significantly impacted all facets of our economy, and our international trade is no exception. Through the first 6 months of this year, our overall exports are down 15.7%. Our agriculture exports are down 5.4%, and our manufactured exports are down 16.2%. Imports are down 12.8%. International tourism, which is our largest export, also suffered devastating losses in jobs and revenue. The industry has lost over 500,000 jobs in California this year, and total tourism traffic through July was down 62%. It is estimated that spending will drop by $75 billion in 2020. We'll hear more about this later from Carolyn Batetta. Countries around the world look to California as a leader. We will continue to treat our neighbors with respect and friendship and will work with other countries to advance our interests and promote our businesses. We will continue to promote the message that California is a place that values diversity, inclusivity, openness, innovation, and environmental activism. Lastly, I want to take a minute to recognize and thank my good friend, the former vice chair of this committee and the governor's economy and jobs advisor, Eleni Kounalakis. We wish him well in his second retirement in beautiful Half Moon Bay. Thank you, Lenny. I'll now turn it over to Chris Dombrowski, Acting Director of GO-Biz, who can talk more about how GO-Biz is supporting small businesses and attracting foreign direct investment to the state. Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And as you alluded to, a lot has changed since our last meeting in March, including my role as acting director, taking over for Lenny during this crisis. So I'll try and be quick. Obviously, during these difficult times, GO-Biz is working hard to support businesses that are looking to engage internationally. From the beginning of the pandemic, our team has been answering the thousands of questions that are coming in from small business owners, manufacturing companies, and those looking to get support or even begin producing PPE. Over the course of the last few months, our focus has shifted from a rapid reaction and response to thinking about how we can provide the most value to those California businesses as they continue to navigate this crisis. Helping businesses weather this storm is our top priority, and the budget signed by Governor Newsom reflects that. The GO-Biz team is strategically adding new regional representatives to the inland parts of California so that we can make sure that businesses have access to state and local points of contact that can help them access the services we provide. We've added an additional $50 million to iBank's COVID-19 disaster relief loan guarantee program as well. Additionally, we've worked hard to make sure that the PPE is available on all essential workers, thanks to the new website, safelymakingca.org. This was created in partnership with the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. So manufacturers have the resources they need to be able to shift their production towards that non-medical grade PPE. Our team has also aided in creating guidance documents for 28 different industries to date, more on the way as we continue to reopen our state economy. Shifting to international, under the Lieutenant Governor's leadership, our international team has fully revamped the state's international trade and investment strategy, focusing on 4 key areas: export development, foreign direct investment attraction, supply chain resiliency, and diplomatic engagement. I'll spend a quick time here just talking about each of these. On the export development side, we are focusing solely on virtual activities. So we participate in 2 virtual trade shows hosted by others, and have participated with Kalman Worldwide. This is the largest organizer of trade shows to provide virtual opportunities to California small businesses looking to sell across the globe. The Lieutenant Governor has been a key participant in these virtual events. So this initiative with Kalman, financed by the U.S. Small Business Trade Association's State Trade Expansion Program grant, will allow dozens of California's small businesses to tap into one of the largest databases of foreign buyers for free. I'm proud to say that California was actually the first one to approach Kalman about doing this, and now a handful of other states are following suit. So we've already hosted virtual trade missions of 20 plus California businesses to Colombia, Chile, Mexico, and our Europe and Asia program is following this fall. So speaking of the trade expansion program, we recently applied for the next 2 years of grant funding from the SBA, totaling $1.8 million to support small business exports across 2021 and 2022. And we've taken the administration of this program in-house at GO-Biz so we can hopefully respond more rapidly to the business needs. We're also putting a series of events together with the Asian Development Bank to open up opportunities for California businesses who are looking to take advantage of the major infrastructure boom in Asia. So California has some of the greenest and most innovative construction and engineering companies, and we want to make sure we're providing them every avenue to export their products and services overseas. Also on export development, we've continued to support virtual export trainings through the California Export Training Network, a group of 16 economic development organizations who've all agreed to provide support to businesses across the state. We recognize that it's a challenging time for manufacturing business and hope that these new initiatives can provide them access to additional markets to sell their products. On the foreign direct investment side, investment is down worldwide. However, in California, we've seen less of a decline and more of a shift in the type of company that is looking to invest. As companies from around the world look to sell into the US PPE market, We're seeing an uptick in companies looking to start producing these materials quickly in California, and as we are the #1 state in manufacturing. So as such, we've adapted our services to respond more rapidly to requests and have put together a series of marketing documents on our website so potential foreign investors understand our offerings before we get on the phone with them. So we're also pleased to report that the current low cost of capital is increasing follow-on investment from foreign companies already in California. So we're currently in process of providing foreign direct investment data to economic development organizations at the county level. COVID is forcing everyone to revamp their regional economic development plans, but we hope this data will be informative of their revised strategies. Additionally, as we continue to lead virtual missions, this data is crucial in helping those EDOs use these events effectively. If there are counties watching this meeting that would like personalized FDI report for their county or would like to discuss how foreign investment can benefit their region, please reach out to our office. We're also working on a new initiative to better understand the needs of California companies looking to shorten their supply chains by potentially moving production stateside, and we're working to tailor our investment services to better accommodate those needs. And just lastly, in supporting the Lieutenant Governor's efforts, we've continued to work with international partners in the state to identify investment leads and make them aware of our evolving services. We've already had well-attended virtual events, again, with our partners in Mexico, Germany, Netherlands, and look forward to supporting the diplomatic efforts of the state. In addition, we're exploring deeper partnership with the Japanese government as Japanese businesses create the most jobs in California of any country, and we want to make sure those businesses understand and use our services. So this year has been challenging so far, and we've done everything we can to quickly help businesses and provide them the opportunities to find new customers, create new sales, employ more Californians. So when faced with a challenge, obviously California leans in and we try to innovate our way through. So this unprecedented crisis, our team remains dedicated to deepening our ties with our international partners and upping the level of service we provide our business. That concludes my update.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that very, very thorough update. And I think as everyone can see, the work goes on. It's definitely, things have changed, both in terms of the personnel staffing, GO-Biz right now, and Chris, you are just doing a terrific job, and Kaina Pereira has also stepped into his role, and we've really appreciated working with him as well. So to everybody at GO-Biz, thank you for everything you're doing. And one more shout out really to Common Worldwide, because having participated now in a couple of those virtual trade shows, it is remarkable how effective we can still be in communicating with one another virtually without necessarily having to be in the same place at the same time. And while I fully expect that the future of trade shows is going to continue to have people come to places around the world to share, to dialogue, to network, and make contacts, my sense is that there will be an ongoing reliance on being able to bring people and experts together in this way as well. So now what I'd like to do, as usual, is we go around the table and hear from everyone. So I'm going to just go ahead and call through the list for simplicity's sake. But again, it's terrific to see everybody here. And I know we all really look forward to hearing, again, as a group, what everyone has been focused on. So we're going to start with Helen Lopez in the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. It's nice to see you, Helen.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Governor and all members. Thank you for me being here. Our director, as you know, is extremely busy. He sends his regrets. So I will give you a recap of all of that we've been doing here at California's at the international level. I thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your support and your leadership in helping us secure PPE with the various countries. So in regards with mutual aid, in August, mid-August, we received a delegation of 13 firefighters from Israel who came here to help us fight the fires. They stayed here 2 weeks, and in coordination and with the support of CAL FIRE, we made this happen. Also, with the U.S. Forest Service, we received over 100 firefighters from Mexico to assist with the fires in Southern California. We have also received assistance from Canada. And OES, we have been participating in conference calls and discussions with the province of Quebec, British Columbia, Ontario, Canada, and Australia in discussing future agreements to secure firefighting assets directly with California. These are initial conversations. We're still waiting to see where what they think about that, but it's a way to secure future assets directly with us. We also had conference calls with the French consulate and the state of Jalisco, Mexico. They offered their assistance. Our fire chief and I spoke with them. At that time, we decided that we did not need the assistance, but the conversation remains open. We have also worked with the County of San Diego, Imperial County, and we gave them PPE so that they in turn would help Baja California, Mexicali, and state level, the Ministry of Public Health. We donated or gave them over 2 million items of PPE so that they can help the border region and distributing these masks to the impacted areas, ports of entry, to prevent the spread of COVID. And through your leadership, Lieutenant Governor, you coordinated and we supported donations from Jordan, Taiwan, Jiangsu, Guangdong, Mongolia, and we received over 2.5 million of PPE, which was very helpful and beneficial to the state of California. We have also been in conversations, discussion with Jordan, who offered to donate a 4-bed ICU unit, mobile unit, and a 14-bed clinic to California. That's in collaboration with the State Department and FEMA. But due to the regulatory extensive review, we may have to decline that one, but we're still in conversation with them. And then we've participated on Facebook Live and Instagram Live with 3 Mexican consulates, San Francisco, Sacramento, and LA, as well as the California-Chile Council on Emergency Preparedness, and addressing questions regarding our COVID response and wildfires, and sharing best practices or some of the lessons that we have learned through all these horrible disasters. And we continue to work closely with the international community here in California, the Consular Corps. On a weekly basis, we share information on resource information available for the community, sharing the stats on what's happening with the wildfires and COVID, and sharing information and tools so that they could distribute and share among their community. And we are working also closely with the community-based organizations who support the vulnerable population by sharing resource information and just addressing questions and learning what their needs are, addressing those needs. And this is all in collaboration with all the state agencies. All of us are continuously working with CDFA, Department of Social Services. So we're one team, one fight, like the director says, but a lot is going on here, as you all know. And so, just keeping busy here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. And please send Secretary Ghilarducci our best. We know he rolled in from one unprecedented crisis and emergency directly into another.
Yes.
So we are all here to be helpful in any way that we can to Mark and you and your team.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to turn to Jenny Lester Moffitt from the California Department of Food and Agriculture. Jenny, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. So the COVID pandemic has been sobering for all of us. The nature of this virus has taken a toll on our people, on our families, on our communities, our healthcare system, and our economy and our food system. Prior to the pandemic, it's estimated that over half of our food supply chain was going into food service. Almost overnight, due to the pandemic, that critical movement of food to the food service chain skid to a halt. Over a 5-day period, 30 million school lunches, 15 million school breakfasts, 100 million meals at restaurants stopped being served. So of course that had a huge impact on the ag, the food supply business, as well as consumers and those who rely on those food service providers. Fresh produce, dairy, flours, meat, eggs, so many supply chains have been thrown into turmoil. But at the same time, California families are struggling to put healthy food on our table. It's actually, we've found that the food banks have seen a 73% increase in demand over the previous year. So at the same time that we see these food supply chain channels skid to a halt, we also at those first couple of months of the pandemic saw a lot of crops that lost those markets, and then a lot of need at the food banks, and the opportunity to really foster that connection between the two. So in April, the governor announced a strengthened partnership with the California Association of Food Bank Farm to Family program. It's a $15 million effort that we, along with Department of Social Services and many of our colleagues in the administration, have been working on, really bringing food that no longer has a market, getting that food harvested out of the fields into the food banks, into the hands and homes of people who really need that food. So that's been a critical effort at the onset. There has been substantial federal support that has been really important for agriculture as well. But CDFA has been working with the Mexican consulate, as Helen mentioned, really partnering with both Cal OES, Listos, California, the Mexican consulate throughout the state on outreach for COVID, on education on COVID, testing services for COVID, as well as ensuring that farm workers and those who are working in our fields and in our food processing plants have access to PPE, the PPE that you guys have been working so tirelessly to get donated, really ensuring that that PPE, masks, hand sanitizers, gloves, the like, are getting to the people who need it the most. And so we've distributed over 13 million surgical masks, over 2 million cloth masks, and then over 3 million N95 masks in the recent months, as we've had an increase uptick in, or just a statewide impact on wildfire smoke. So that partnership that we've had with the Mexican consulate, as Helen mentioned, has been critical in really ensuring that those and all of Californians are getting the access that we need. On the trade front, we did, since our last meeting, CDFA has released our 2018-2019 agricultural export statistics that we do in partnership with the Ag Issue Center at UC Davis. The key takeaways of that report, now this is for 2018-2019, not to confuse what the Lieutenant Governor just talked about with trade impacts this year, but California ag exports were valued at $21 billion, which is a slight increase over the previous year. Top markets are the EU, Canada, China, Japan, and Korea. And then our top agricultural exports are almonds at $4.5 billion, pistachios, dairy, wine, and walnuts. On average, California farmers and ranchers are exporting approximately 26% of production. So $1 in $4 that is being produced in California is going overseas. California remains the top producing and exporting state in the nation. Additionally, on the trade front, as we all talked about, we're all shifting gears and going to virtual fronts. So we continue to work with our regional and state partners, ag associations, and federal colleagues in creating business opportunities for California companies. We've hosted 5 virtual buying mission activities, including Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. We've done supermarket promotions with Mexico, social media and chef recipe developments. Overall, we're targeting participants of more than 75 companies, and over 200 individual company meetings. So the online platform continues. We're utilizing that and really continuing to foster those trade networks where possible. On the climate change front, CDFA continues our ongoing international collaboration with our partners. Earlier this month, we connected with Portuguese officials in the Tagus Valley on climate smart agriculture opportunities, and we look forward to further dialogue and collaboration with them in the coming months. On October 7th, we'll be hosting a climate smart agriculture webinar on drought and water use efficiency with the officials from Western Cape and South Africa. This is a follow-up from a trade mission that Secretary Ross led in August of 2019. In November, CDFA will be partnering with the Tri-National Agricultural Accord, which brings together representatives from Canada, Mexico, and the United States to further trade relations and cooperation. In closing, we all know a lot of trade policy developments are occurring as well, from China to the UK, World Trade Organization, and the EU, and CDFA continues to stay engaged through our stakeholders, our national and regional organizations, the Lieutenant Governor's Office, and our federal government on these issues. We look forward to continuing our collaboration across agencies and maintaining California's position as the forefront of our international issues. And I just want to say one note on behalf of Secretary Ross, who isn't able to be here today. She does send her regards. She is not able to make it. She does very much enjoy participating in this. And I want to give also kudos to Josh Eddy, who is our rock always on trade issues and international issues. And I'm sure if there are additional questions, he'll be able to answer those as well. But thank you, Josh, for all you do on our behalf as well.
Thank you so much. That was a great report, Jenny, very well delivered. And again, just goes to show that the work of Secretary Ross continues within an even more robust way. Next, I want to turn to Secretary Jared Blumenfeld.
Last week I was Wade and now I'm Blumenthal. It's okay.
You know what? We have more 3 to 4 syllable names on our committee and among our staff than typical. And I should be really good at it considering my own last name. All right, Environmental Protection Agency. Great to see you, Jared. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thanks everyone else for joining. And as has been said, you know, a huge amount has changed since our last meeting. And, you know, I think we've all, you know, been affected both personally and professionally with COVID-19. And as we heard from Jenny and Chris and yourself, Lieutenant Governor, we all strive to continue virtually with our international partners. And as you mentioned at the beginning, you know, many of us were honored to participate in the California Climate Action Day during Climate Week last week in New York City, following the governor's historic executive order phasing out the sale of gas-powered vehicles. We convened world, state, tribal, local leaders, business executives, and other experts to discuss innovative solutions to a wide variety of climate challenges facing our state. And just wanted to give a big shout out because the executive order was a product of many of the committee participants with us today: Chair Nichols, Secretary Kim, Director Gordon, Chair Hochschild, Undersecretary Barranco, and even in absentia, Secretary Crowfoot, Undersecretary Moffitt, and Secretary Ross, Acting Secretary Dombrowski, and of course, you as the chair, Lieutenant Governor. Really appreciate your support as well as Max's, so really appreciate that. It really was a team effort, and I think what it shows is how widely dispersed the climate issue now is in California and how it intersects, obviously, with everything we're doing internationally, as Jenny mentioned, but also just what a great team you've assembled here. So really, really appreciate that. Another announcement which came out of something that a few of us are also involved in, that you touched on, Lieutenant Governor, is the Economic Recovery Task Force that the governor created. And out of that was the California Climate Action Corps, which is a California volunteers-led initiative with a mission of empowering Californians to take action on climate change. The governor also participated in Climate Week events with the U.S. Climate Alliance, the Under 2 Coalition, where it was announced that California will serve as the co-chair of the Under 2 Coalition for the next 2 years. Yesterday, a number of us participated in a call with the EU Directorate General for Climate Action, and really starting to talk about the EU Green Deal and share our experiences on green recovery with our European partners. In July, we participated with the Lieutenant Governor and many of you in the California-China dialogue facilitated by the California-China Climate Initiative. Now I won't be able to even say my own name. And during the dialogue, we discussed California's response to COVID and plans for a green recovery, including our work with the governor's task force that I just mentioned. We also expressed interest in coordinating with our Chinese counterparts for an impactful presence at the 26th UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties in Glasgow next November. And as you know, we've been coordinating with the host of COP26, the UK, on California's participation in this important international convening. And Secretary Crowfoot, Director Gordon, and I met virtually with the members of the UK team, including the COP President, Sharma, and the COP26 envoy, John Merton. We're considering participation in initiatives leading up to COP26, such as the UK's Drive to Zero effort and the UNFCCC's Race to Zero dialogues. California staff also participated in the UK's workshop on zero-emission vehicles, along with members of the Climate Alliance. We've continued changing step to Mexico, our collaboration with our partners in Mexico with the Natural Resources Agency. We're working with our counterparts at the Mexican Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources to explore the renewal of our California-Mexico MOU on climate and the environment. And potentially Secretary Hochschild will talk about the parallel work the CEC is doing on that front. We appreciate your continued support in our efforts to address, Lieutenant Governor, the longstanding wastewater discharges at the San Diego-Mexico border. And we're currently working with US EPA and our local and regional reps from the San Diego area to invest and understand an investment plan for the $300 million that was appropriated from the US-Mexico-Canada free trade deal, which was the successor to NAFTA, which we hope will put money into the infrastructure to treat at least 160 million gallons a day of sewage. As you know, current flows from Tijuana into the US side of the Tijuana River Valley can range from anywhere between 28 to 160 million gallons per day. So while a number of discrete projects aimed at treating wastewater along the coast and river tributaries are important, we have to keep the momentum going with US EPA to invest in infrastructure that immediately treats the flows coming across the border from Tijuana to San Diego. We look forward to continuing to update your team and this committee on progress on these investments. In line with our efforts to restore and protect water quality along the border, as well as air quality and species habitat, Wade and I recently submitted a letter to the Department of Homeland Security opposing one of the many proposals to build Trump's wall along the US-Mexico border. As you may know, most of it, if not all the segments of the border wall, have been subject to NEPA compliance waivers, meaning there's no real requirements for environmental review. Because of this, they're proposing and taking informal comments in each of the 2 to 5 mile segments of the border wall infrastructure. This latest proposal, for which Wade and I submitted a letter to the Department of Homeland Security, includes building a security bridge and fence across the Tijuana River. It's an area that US EPA is considering for additional wastewater treatment investments. In this recent letter, we focused on evaluating the need for border wall construction as compared to critical wastewater infrastructure investments that will better protect US residents from harm caused by the flow of pollution, not people. We will continue to push back on border wall construction because of the myriad of environmental impacts it will cause and because of its divisive symbolism to which we do not ascribe. Finally, and maybe Mary can talk about this some more, the Air Resources Board recently received an update from our agency's border staff regarding the increasing importance of binational partnerships between our state and the state of Baja and municipalities on the Mexican side of the border, especially around air quality planning and pollution reduction and monitoring. Particularly at a time when respiratory illness is such heightened concern, we need to ensure that all our partnerships help us achieve health benefits for our most vulnerable residents. And this includes our binational partnerships along the border and elsewhere. And that concludes my presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Blumenfeld. And thank you for giving us the report on the state of the allocation around the Tijuana River. If anyone missed it, there's a pretty extraordinary 60 Minutes piece on the Tijuana River, and I really encourage people to check it out. Next, we will turn to Mary Nichols, Chair of the California Air Resources Board. Mary, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I was having trouble finding my mute button. Well, Jared covered, I think, most of the major events, but I'd like to add just a couple of things. First of all, to sort of round out a little bit his discussion about China and the dialogue that continues between the state of California and the Chinese over climate initiatives and progress. We, I think, can actually claim some credit for the recent announcement by China of their plans for achieving carbon neutrality, even though their goal is 2060. That's a long ways from where they were a few years ago in terms of what they're attempting. And I believe that having had the opportunity to interact with California and through us, with a number of other states as well, has helped to reassure the government of China that the United States will eventually, and hopefully sooner rather than later, be a good partner again in international climate efforts. So while I don't want to push this idea too far, I really do think the fact that in a time when communication has been almost non-existent except around hostile actions around trade, that the fact that we have been able to maintain this dialogue is one of the more hopeful things that's happening in the U.S.-Chinese relationship, and we're very proud to be a part of that. One additional item, which I think was not mentioned, is that the government of Beijing, which has a very strong and serious air quality program, convened a symposium on ideas and initiatives around air quality, specifically around the public health aspects of air quality and technologies that are available to deal with it. It was an international symposium, but we had several representatives that were involved in that program, and it was really heartening to see the level of effort and expertise, as well as a commitment that's going into that very much needed effort in Beijing. So that was the good news. The other area that we, of course, remain very active in internationally is our partnership with the government of Quebec in the cap and trade programs, part of our climate plan. During this period of shutdown, we have actually conducted 2 auctions of allowances. The first was undersubscribed. It came at a time when emissions and economic activity in general were at an all-time low, and so revenue to the state was also correspondingly low. We were convinced that this was expected and that the program is designed to, in fact, expect that sort of activity and fluctuating with the economy, and the fact that at that particular quarterly auction there wasn't a great need for allowances by the companies that are required to have them. So we had another auction more recently. We were back to a more normal state of bidding and flow at the price, at the auction price that we've established. So we in general are encouraged, and I just would say even more encouraged by the fact that our ability to operate a binational program has continued and strengthened in many respects the conversations with Canada about other environmental issues that affect our 2 countries as well. I also do want to really underscore the comment that was made both by Lieutenant Governor and by Secretary Blumenfeld about the border issues. There is a binational group of legislators that has decided to take up the question of more formally developing programmatic activities across the border on air pollution. And we're very enthusiastic about this because we think that it's going to be necessary that we work collaboratively, not just exchanging information, but actually where it's possible to be jointly implementing programs. And I think there's a very good precedent to be set there. So I think that's enough from me. But I would just add that one of the sad effects of the shutdown in travel has been that we haven't been able to do the normal entertaining, if you will, accommodation of visitors from around the world who have flocked to California in the past. We may not be our biggest tourism center, but I do think that climate tourism actually is a piece of the overall tourism trade in California, and we have enjoyed and felt that we've profited as well from having so many delegations that have come through to visit us, and so we are looking forward to the day when that can happen again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Nichols. And I've no doubt that those visitors will come back. And it is a testament to your leadership and your almost honestly, Mary, iconic status over the years that people want to come and understand how California does it. And again, you know, the announcement, I know you were there with the governor at the press release, at the press conference of the executive order around our 2035 mandate now, that California will not allow the sale of any new cars other than zero emission vehicles. It is such a momentous thing. And so even virtually, people are watching and believe that if we set these goals, it is because we have a pathway to get there. And they come here to learn what that pathway is and what it takes. So thank you to you for your incredible leadership. So now we're going to turn to Director of the Office of Planning and Research, Kate Gordon. Nice to see you, Kate.
Nice to see you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you. And just adding my congratulations in particular to Chair Nichols and also Secretaries Blumenfeld and Crowfoot in his absence on the executive order, which was a huge lift by a huge team, but those three played a really critical leadership role. So thank you to all of you. Secretary Blumenfeld covered many of the issues that we've been working on collaboratively on the climate front internationally, particularly work with the European Union and the UK on the lead up to the next Conference of the Parties at the UN, which we really hope is in Glasgow next year. The work we've been continuing to do as chair, again, of the Under 2 Coalition and work with China. I'll just add a couple of additional details that things that the Office of Planning and Research, or OPR, has been working on in our role, providing long-range advice and collaboration and guidance on a variety of issues, and particularly on climate resilience and planning and land use to the governor and the cabinet. So one is just on the international side, we continue to serve on the US-China Track 2 group that the World Resources Institute put together several years ago. And that's been an important additional engagement with China on US issues, but also with California playing a really strong role in that Track 2 discussion. So, and really would echo what both Secretary Blumenfeld and Chair Nichols said about the China relationship. It's challenging and complicated right now. Everyone is looking at the election to see where it will go, but the climate issues continue to be a small bright spot and a place for ongoing collaboration there. On the other work we've been doing internationally, we've been working at OPR based on the executive order that the governor put out last year around this time, Executive Order N1919, called for the Department of Finance to work with OPR on a climate investment framework with our pension funds, really to look at how we can work with the pension funds collaboratively in thinking about aligning our investments and our investment strategy with our climate goals, and also acknowledging the risks from physical climate impacts to those funds. We at OPR have been working with Department of Finance on that track, as well as working with a number of agencies, most particularly CalSTA, so Secretary Kim's agency, as well as the Department of General Services, on how we as a state asset owner and investor ourselves can be looking at aligning our decision making with our climate goals. Last week, the governor released our climate investment framework, I'm very happy to say, and it has important implications. It really says, and I should say as a caveat, we of course don't direct our pension funds, but we do work with them very collaboratively, and our investors in them. Many of us are members of the pension funds. And what the framework calls for is first for the funds to consider directing additional funds to their impact funds on clean energy and other climate technology programs. And those are funds that are spent internationally. The pension funds do investment globally. And so they really do have a big impact on global markets. The second thing that the order calls for is, or the framework calls for, is for the state to set up a working group to look at the issue of climate disclosure, to actually start asking ourselves, those with whom we contract and do business, to upfront disclose the risks that they're facing from the physical impacts of climate change, as well as the potential risk that they face by not getting ahead of the transition to a carbon neutrality, which we as a state have made very clear is our policy. So we will be working with a number of other agencies, many of them here, along with the pensions and the departments of insurance and treasury on that roadmap. We also, in the order, in the framework, called for the state to join the International Coalition for Climate Resilient Investment, which was a World Economic Forum coalition that essentially brings together private sector and public sector entities that are investors to look at how to take climate science, the best climate science on climate impacts like wildfires, extreme heat, sea level rise, and actually bring that information into infrastructure and investment decision-making in an operational way. So we'll be working with that international coalition. We're very excited about that. That's a set of conversations we've been having on an ongoing basis with the EU, which is actually quite far advanced on thinking about climate finance and climate risk, particularly the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And we've been engaging very closely with them, looking at what they've learned on climate disclosure, what they've learned on what they call physical risk and transition risk, and learning from them and engaging with them on these issues. And last week during Climate Week, there were a series of I think, really valuable panels that many of us did. Following the governor's conversation with Van Jones, we did a series of panels on important climate issues in California. And we actually did a panel that I was honored to moderate with the head of sustainable investment for the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, as well as with James Miyako from McKinsey, who is the head of the McKinsey Global Institute. So this is a very international issue. It has international implications, and we're very excited that California is taking a climate finance leadership position, as we have on so many other issues. The final thing I'll say is that we continue to participate in the California Green Bond Market Development Committee that the Treasurer Ma, has set up with a number of folks from the administration, but mostly actually private sector actors, looking at the potential for green bond financing to really be a way for us as a state to start to reduce our own cost of borrowing when the projects that we're bonding against are sustainable projects that have a really strong investment in our long-term sustainable and resilient economy. So a lot of things happening on the climate finance front, lots of international implications, and really excited to be doing especially so much work with our European friends on those issues.
Thank you very much, Kate. There's no better way to put a vision into action than in working in and around green finance and having our private sector motivated and incentivized into investing in this space and bringing the kinds of innovation that we're going to really need to tackle the challenges ahead. So thank you, and thank you for that great report. Next, we'll turn to Angela Barranco, Undersecretary, California Natural Resources Agency. Great to see you, Angela.
Thank you, and very happy to be here with all of you, and Wade sends his regards. Unfortunately, he could not make it. And the last few months, as I think many of you have indicated, have been life-changing for all of us, and including much of the work that we do at Natural Resources. As many of you know, we have CAL FIRE as part of our team, and so we have had successive crises that we've been working through in obviously coordination with many of you, but especially with Cal OES, fighting fires statewide in such a epically, difficult and challenging environment. So, I just want to acknowledge some of the work that's happened there with many of you, with all of you, I'll say. And, the work continues even this week. There's been additional fires that have come, but we've seen some, really just disturbing data in terms of the challenges that we face for the future of California, but also some incredible partnerships. I'll just make note that we had several firefighter crews come up from Mexico who have been, arm in arm with our CAL FIRE and local teams. And so, we're just really thankful for the work that's happening with our crews, but also just with the support that we've received from many states, but also internationally for the work that's happening. As part of that, I'll just also note, we, with the state park system and with many of our wilderness areas, have seen some pretty significant impacts. And so as we are thinking about, climate change and the impacts of things like COVID and being outdoors, the space and open spaces and parks that we work with and Natural Resources have really become sort of central to the health and well-being of the people of California, but also just underscores the important work that we do to link with our partners internationally when it comes to biodiversity, when it comes to habitat protection, and things like working on migratory species. So with that, I'll jump into just talking a little bit about some of the events that folks have already mentioned and gone into more detail, but just adding our piece to those as part of Climate Week, and of course, Secretary Blumenfeld and Director Gordon and Chair Nichols and everyone else definitely participated in some really wonderful panels. In particular for us, the Secretary moderated a virtual panel about building wildfire and water resilience through nature-based solutions during the California Climate Action Day, which I think was a really great panel. CDSA, excuse me, have been a great partner, and we really look forward to continuing our work with Western Cape and all of you to increase our ties there. The Secretary also participated in an event titled Creating a Blue-Green Future, Advancing Ocean Climate Solutions in the Arc Towards COP26, and that included panelists from Costa Rica, Peru, Panama, and Canada. And I think folks have really gotten into the dialogues with China and the EU, but just, adding our support and work in that space, and really excited to engage specifically on biodiversity and how nature can be integrated into our climate and overall biodiversity efforts. And specifically, we, during the California-China dialogue, we got a great update on the UN Convention on Biological Diversity's 15th Conference of Parties, which unfortunately had to be postponed due to COVID, but cross our fingers, will be next year, May 17th through the 30th in China. And the theme is around ecological civilization, which is building a shared future for all life on Earth. And in California, we are so blessed with incredible biodiversity that we can be international leaders on that as well. And so really exploring the best ways to engage as a subnational, but just excited to partner with many of you as we already are. Additionally, we did a Chile-California Council annual meeting, and this was in August, where Secretary Crowfoot, along with the CEC and our Ocean Protection Council, participated in the Chile-California Council annual meeting, along, of course, with the Lieutenant Governor, thank you, and did incredible work to sort of think about how we can increase our collaboration on ocean climate action, on marine protected areas, fire prevention, very important these days, forest health, and forest management. So looking forward to continue our collaboration with Chile, and are hopeful that they will be in a place to join the Pacific Rim Ocean Climate Action Partnership in the near future. And lastly, and our work with Mexico continues. I think Secretary Blumenfeld got into much of that but just really excited for our MOU focused on environment and climate change, and just increasingly engaging on nature-based solutions and how they can really drive our climate and biodiversity goals. So looking forward to continuing collaboration with many of you, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, Angela, for that terrific report. We are going to turn next to Secretary David Kim, California State Transportation Agency, who is joining by phone because his internet connection is not as strong as it needs to be. Welcome, Secretary Kim. It's great to hear from you. Secretary Kim.
Lieutenant Governor, Secretary Kim. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You should be.
Oh,
able
yeah.
to
Here we are.
There he is.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor, and apologies for the internet glitch. It suddenly disappeared at my place. So I was kicked off the Zoom meeting, so I thought I would call in the old-fashioned way. So apologies for the technical difficulty here.
It's great to have you.
Right. Wanted to give a quick update on a number of transportation activities taking place along the California-Mexico border. As I think everyone knows, over the past many months, non-essential travel between the U.S. and Mexico has been restricted. And just recently, both governments agreed to extend that travel restriction for another 30 days until October 21st. Now, in terms of cross-border traffic, we're seeing some interesting but not altogether surprising developments, data points rather. So for example, commercial truck traffic has returned to pre-pandemic levels, but on the other hand, passenger vehicle crossings are about 35% of what they were prior to travel restrictions, and pedestrian crossings are also down substantially, about 50% lower than pre-COVID numbers. In terms of our government counterparts on the Mexican side, President López Obrador recently appointed Mr. Jorge Arganis Diaz-Leal to serve as Secretary of Communications and Transportation. He's been on the job for about 2 months now. I wrote a letter to Secretary Arganis congratulating him and also offering our support, and also requested a meeting with him and our regional partners to discuss the status of the SR-11 Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project. And Lieutenant Governor, I'm so glad you mentioned your engagement on this project during your update. We just heard back from Secretary Arganis, and he agreed to meet with us. He also noted that the newly enacted trade agreement, USMCA, really underscores the importance of new ports of entry like Otay Mesa 2, and he views it as a high priority. So when he and I get together, we'll talk about steps Mexico has taken and will continue to take to advance the project. His agency is known as the Ministry of Communications and Transportation, or SCT, and they recently selected a firm to negotiate and acquire the right-of-way for Otay Mesa 2. And they also recently selected a firm to serve as project manager. One thing I plan to discuss with Secretary Arganis is whether we should consider forming a binational policy working group on Otay Mesa East that would meet on a regular basis in order to track milestones and resolve any major policy issues so the project can go forward. Now, moving to our side of the border, Caltrans and Sandag are now building State Route 11, and that's the roadway that will lead to Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. And I'm really glad to report that good progress is being made. All the necessary right-of-way has now been acquired, which is a huge milestone. On top of that, Caltrans and Sandag staff are coordinating with the Mexican Ministry of Communications and Transportation on the investment-grade traffic and revenue study, as well as installing intelligent transportation systems that will complement the project on both sides of the border. It's also worth mentioning that the California-Baja California Border Master Plan is now being updated and continues to move forward. Caltrans is getting lots of good stakeholder input, and the Border Master Plan update should be finalized by the end of this February. And just east of Otay Mesa is the Calexico East Port of Entry Bridge Widening Project, and Caltrans recently completed environmental studies and preliminary design, and that move will clear the way for the Imperial County Transportation Commission to begin the design-build process and move forward on the project, and that will greatly improve access from Mexico to the U.S. at the Calexico East Port of Entry. Also wanted to briefly touch upon the Memorandum of Cooperation on Climate Change between California and the government of Japan. We sent a number of revisions to the governor's office on climate resilience and also underserved populations, including minority and low-income communities. We also proposed that sea level rise and urban heat island issues be included as areas of cooperation. And then on zero emission vehicles, I'm so glad there was a lot of talk already on the governor's executive order. On ZEV, we proposed language clarifying that it should include both battery electric as well as hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, along with charging infrastructure. And given the governor's housing focus on housing, we proposed a new provision on sustainable development. Japan is doing a lot of work in this area through the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So we thought it would be appropriate to look at this area. And so with that, Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much for the time, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Secretary Kim. That was really packed with great information on the work that you're doing over there. In particular, thank you for giving us the update on Otay Mesa 2. Please let us know if you are able to work with your counterpart in Mexico to set up a working group. I've had several conversations with Undersecretary for North American Affairs, Seade, about this, and they have a lot on their mind in Mexico City right now, and we have to continue to push them and remind them of the importance of the completion of the infrastructure on their side of the border. So thank you for continuing to keep that front and center. We have two more reports. We're going to take them out of order according to my list because David Hochschild, chair of the California Energy Commission, is running short on time. So David, the floor is yours, and then we'll finish up with Carolyn Bitetta.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. And I want to just thank you for all your work to keep these healthy relationships with other countries around the world, which is a good thing in its own right, but especially in an emergency. And I was just very touched and impressed to see this delegation of 100 firefighters from Mexico come in. I learned about that last week. And I know I speak for all of us on the committee when we say thank you to Mexico for sending your best, and how fortunate we are to be able to have Mexico as a partner, particularly in light of some of the unfortunate comments over the last few years. We need each other, and we want to be there for them and for our colleague countries around the world when they're in trouble. I wanted just to take a minute to note this executive order. The significance of this cannot be overstated. This is a colossal moment for the state and for the country and for the world to have California do this. We're the first state in the United States to do that, but we will not be the last. And first and foremost, I wanted to just thank Mary Nichols for really a lifetime of work up to this moment that put us in the position to be able to do this. And especially acknowledge Secretary Blumenfeld for just extraordinary relentless advocacy and strategic thinking around this, and his super capable Deputy Secretary Lauren Sanchez, among many others, worked incredibly hard to get this done. I would point out it's been a little over a year and a half since SB 100 was signed into law, setting our electric grid on a course to get to 100% clean energy, and that was dismissed as impractical mythology not long ago at all. And today, it's the law of the land in 14 states. It's in Vice President Biden's energy platform. And I think we should all have an expansive sense of possibility about where this executive order can lead. It will inspire action in other states. It will certainly, and already has, moved markets. And so I'm just really proud of the whole team, everyone on this call and in this administration and other stakeholders for getting that done. With respect to international, we're continuing to work on implementation of MOUs with Mexico and Denmark, largely focused around building codes and energy codes and efficiency. We are also working potentially on some work around carbon capture and hydrogen development with Denmark. And Germany, every year we host a big annual gathering. Thank you again, Lieutenant Governor, for agreeing to keynote that. This year, we'll be transitioning that from focusing on renewables to focusing on ZEBs. So really excited about that. And then with China, I've been participating in a couple conversations hosted by the Asia Society about setting the table for better climate collaboration. We've had former Ambassador John Huntsman, former Chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mike Mullen, and a bunch of Chinese counterparts just talking about how to set the table for that. That really remains the most important relationship in the world, I think, between the United States and China on climate, and particularly between California and China. And I think we can do a lot around ramping up the zero emission vehicle push. So really excited to continue on that. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Chair Hochschild. Thank you for that great report. And we are going to hand it over to Carolyn Batetta from Visit California. Carolyn, I know there's a lot of really tough things happening in the tourism industry right now, but I also know that when it comes to your work, we're certainly in store for some good news as well. So thank you for being here. We look forward to your report.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and for laying out that foundation in your opening remarks. I'm also heartened and reassured by all the incredible work that all of you are doing in hearing your reports. It has been an epic year for tourism with COVID, basically 9 times worse than 9/11. Our unemployment levels are twice that of the Great Depression for hospitality. And now with the wildfire crisis, it's absolutely devastating for us. There are a few glimmers of hope, and I'll touch upon those, but I guess we'll start with the bad news first. We are funded by the industry. We have 21,000 investors. So our program is directly guided by how the health of the industry. And frankly, the health of the industry really helps support and finance all of our local communities throughout California, mainly through sales tax revenue of tourism spending and transit occupancy tax. So when you're reading in headlines that these cities are highly impacted with huge budget deficits, a lot of it is because anywhere from 30 to 50% of their overall general fund revenues come from visitor spending. And with that, we've also been devastated. Our budget sliced in half because the industry, as the Lieutenant Governor said, was basically sliced in half in terms of overall spending due to COVID. Thus, we've had to pause all international programming. We had 14 international offices the last time we met in person, and now they are in a state of pause. We've definitely kept a presence, a small presence, in 7 of our key markets, being Canada, Mexico, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, China, and Australia. And really, was that small sum, it really just demonstrates our commitment in California to maintaining a candle in the window presence in these markets vis-a-vis our competitive set, and positioning us to the return, eventual return of international marketing. Visit California has a monthly intelligence report that focuses on airlift, consumer sentiment, the competitive landscape, and the state of the tourism industry. Like I said, many of our offices have been paused, but many have been conducting a lot of pro bono work for their love of California and the long relationship we've had with them, maintaining a presence in the market, including webinars, online trainings, virtual sales calls, and trade shows. Just like Jenny and Chris mentioned earlier, the effectiveness is really astounding what we can accomplish virtually, even in a virtual trade show environment. In terms of Visit California's international readiness, we're developing international re-entry criteria to ensure we're ready to re-enter those markets that have the biggest potential for our destination when it is the right time. What we're monitoring as part of those re-entry requirements are travel restrictions between the US and our source markets, our source market consumer sentiment, our travel trade industry readiness, and air service into the USA and California. And many of you mentioned lift and capacity around air service. Just as a point of reference, our load factor to California from international markets in August was 41%, which is an improvement over the height of the COVID lockdowns globally in April. Just a couple notes on some of our key markets that we're looking at closely. Currently in Australia, the borders are closed until December 17th, 2020. However, we're looking at launch of new service from LA or Sydney to LA, March 28th, 2021. In China, launch of service from LA to Shanghai to LA, also March 28th. In Canada, as you know, we have a border closure that's been announced through October 21st, and I assume that will be extended. But the load factors out of that market still are about 45%, due to the fact that there still is a 14-day quarantine requirement. So a lot of it is essential travel, visiting friends and family. We're looking at new launch of service from Paris to LA also on March 28th, 2021. As well as in Japan, Tokyo to LA, March 28th as well. Mexico, as we've heard earlier, really never stopped flying. We actually have 142 weekly flights from Mexico to California. So some good opportunities there. We're focusing on market reentry in 2021, mostly launching at the travel trade level with Canada, Mexico, and the UK. And really focusing on reestablishing that regular communication and connecting with them in terms of what's the latest on our destination experiences, attraction openings, our safety protocols. We need them to have that information as they're preparing for their winter, spring, summer 2021 product offering catalogs. So with that, with Canada, we're looking at focusing on winter travel. Canadians seeking sun getaways after the first of the year, moving into spring and summer. Mexico, a little bit earlier in the timeline, the November El Buen Fin, Mexico's Black Market Friday, basically, and holiday spending. And the UK, we're looking and targeting spring, summer travel, launching with the British Boxing Day and that January sales period that's very popular in that country. So as the Lieutenant Governor said, it's been a precipitous decline in travel since the outbreak of COVID, and it's really erased a decade of growth. And we're looking at a forecast of a loss of about $75 billion for the year in spending in California, just completely evaporated over 1 year. But with that, California does have a slight silver lining. As a matter of fact, Californians spend $60 billion a year in California. Roughly 73% of all of our domestic visitors are Californian. So we're starting to pivot with an in-state campaign that you'll be seeing called Calling All Californians, focusing on basically helping our fellow Californians get back to a thriving economy. And basically a modern day act of patriotism. And then we will eventually move into Western drive feeder markets with a California is Calling campaign message. And then finally moving into next spring, a national layer with our launch of our new brand campaign, All Dreams Always Welcome in California, with that light layered touch of international planning and development in the early parts of 2021. So with that, that's my report. We're looking forward to 2021 and putting 2020 behind us.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. They're very sobering numbers indeed, and there's no question that your industry really is bearing the brunt of the economic outfall of COVID-19. But it is always encouraging to hear how quickly you accepted the reality of the impacts of COVID and have been pivoting toward other ways to help businesses make up for the difference by appealing to people right here in the state. And if everyone is checking the daily updates on covid19.ca.gov, our counties are regularly moving from purple to red to orange. And at a minimum, more of the domestic market, I think, will be able to be open, helping those businesses. So thank you for everything that you are doing. All right, so we now have the opportunity for general public comment. If you would like to make a comment, please indicate so by writing your request in the Q&A field. The secretary will unmute you for your comment in the order that it was received. We ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you so much. Secretary, are there any comments?
Yes, the first comment is from Hassan Ikrada with the San Diego Association of Governments. I will unmute you now.
Hassan, you are on mute.
Okay, Lieutenant Governor, good afternoon. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. To all of you, thank you for all the reports. I listen and enjoy listening to you. At SANDAG, we just released our vision for the next 30 years. And as Chairwoman Mary Nichols and Director Gordon, Secretary Kim know that we're very keen on making sure we truly do reduce greenhouse gas emission. We truly push the envelope. We truly chart a new future for transportation. And it's not easy. I know Director Gordon got a taste of that when she spoke to our board a while back. But we're gonna do it. But Secretary Kim alluded to what I missed too. And Lieutenant Governor, we work with your office, and I appreciate all the work you and your Chief of Staff, Maria, did. We are very excited. We all, with Caltrans, invested $500 million on our side of the border. I've been to Mexico City 4 times before the pandemic, meeting with partners. I believe we're very close, and I know that COVID-19 has impacted everything, but we're very close to do an amazing border crossing that's gonna add to having our biggest partner with California. But I just wanted to come here today and tell you thank you for your leadership. Thank you for keeping this amazing state moving in the right direction, and I look forward to further discussion.
Well, thank you so much, Hassan. And let me just, on behalf of the commission, note the incredible importance of the work of SANDAG. You have been at this for a very long time. I often say that the San Diego region is really almost acted as the State Department for the state of California with the work that you have done on cross-border affairs for so many years and the expertise that you have down there. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming and speaking with us, and for everything you and your colleagues are doing. Secretary, do you have any more notices from anyone who would like to speak?
Yes, we have an additional notice from Joel Perler of Long Beach, of the Port of Long Beach, who wanted me to convey that the Port of Long Beach thanks all of you for your efforts in the international sphere. Your successful results are very visible, as we had the best 2 months ever in our 109-year history in terms of cargo movement in July and August.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming to speak. And we didn't really touch much on the port activity, but it's a good reminder that California has the largest port infrastructure system of any state in the country. Very early on in this pandemic, there was a great deal of concern over the impact to our ports. And over the last few months, a lot of activity has come back, which is a great relief, but we have to continue to keep an eye on the California port system. The jobs that are created by port activity are very significant, and ensuring that our ports can remain competitive while always living up to the standards that California has for moving into the future with cleaner, better economic activity is no easy task for them, and we appreciate everything that they are doing, and certainly I'm and my team are equally committed to helping ensure that our ports continue to be able to be competitive and function in really a world-class way. Secretary, any more?
Yes, one more comment from Suzanne Sterling at the California Chamber of Commerce. Suzanne, I will be unmuting you now.
Thank you very much, Max, and to the Lieutenant Governor, Vice Chair Dombrowski. Thank you for all that you're doing, and I especially want to highlight OES, Mark Garloducci, Helen Lopez. What you're doing for our state is phenomenal, and Carolyn Bottetta, thank you and what all your tourism folks are doing to keep the business world going. Very important. Undersecretary Moffitt mentioned the U.S.-UK Free Trade Agreement, which is under negotiation at the moment. I know that you all have had a lot to do, and trade policy is just one subject to look at. I was thrilled to hear that the ag folks are looking at this, because it certainly is very important. But I was just wondering if there are any other agencies that have had the opportunity to look at it. It certainly is important, major trading and investment partner for California. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it's definitely something that the business community, the Cal Chamber, urges you to take a look at in the future. So thank you so much. And I love Carolyn's cat walking behind you.
Thank you so
It's
much.
a dog.
Suzanne, thank you so much for appearing and for your remarks. I can certainly assure you that our office is keeping a close eye on the negotiations between the United States and the UK, and in the wake of the UK's decision to leave the European Union, and ensuring that we can continue to work with the UK in our trade activity. It's very important to us. We do regular calls with Speaker Pelosi's office on this. It does appear to me that in light of the upcoming elections, it's still a little unclear about what their timeline is over the next few months. But we are very interested in watching this. So thank you for that great reminder, because certainly UK investment, foreign direct investment into California, and the number of companies operating here and trade relationships that we have are very important to us. Okay, Secretary, any more members of the public who would like to speak?
There are no further public comments.
All right, then let me just conclude by thanking again the secretaries, directors, and their representatives on the call today, as well as members of the public who've joined us. As we know, despite the massive changes we've all had to face, I'm very glad to hear that we are continuing to push forward major international initiatives relating to trade, climate, border infrastructure, emergency preparedness, tourism, and a variety of other issues on behalf of the state of California. As the biggest subnational state in the world in the terms of our economy, we are in a unique position to engage in the world and set the tone globally. Around the world, people are truly looking for leadership, and under the leadership of Governor Newsom and so many others in this state who work in and around ensuring that the interests and the values of the state of California are recognized and heard, we have a great deal that we have been able and will continue to be able to accomplish together. So thank you again, everyone, for your participation. And with that, I'd like to conclude the meeting. We will plan for our next meeting in the next quarter, and I'll look forward to seeing you all again then. And in the meantime, thank you for your commitment to this important work, and we'll look forward to hearing from all of you again then.
Thank you.
Bye.
With that, I conclude the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.